You learned to listen for the sound of the car in the driveway. Not because you were excited, because you needed to know before the door opened what kind of evening it was going to be. The way the car door closed told you something. The pause before the key went in the lock told you more. And by the time he walked through that door, you already knew. You'd known for years how to read it in the first 3 seconds. The way he moved, the way he said your name or didn't, the smell that came in with him. And depending on what you read, you either relaxed, just slightly, or you went quiet, made yourself small, disappeared into your room and hoped the evening would pass without incident. You were 8 years old, and you were already one of the best readers of human behavior you would ever become. Nobody taught you that skill. It was survival. In post-war America, drinking wasn't a problem. It was a pastime. The cocktail hour, the beer after work, the whiskey kept in the living room cabinet like furniture. Advertisements showed smiling fathers with drinks in hand, relaxed, successful, at ease. By the 1960s, alcohol was woven into the fabric of suburban life so completely that nobody thought to question it. And for millions of families, it was fine. A drink or two, unwinding, normal. But for millions of others, it was something different. Something that started the same way and ended somewhere much darker. Something that everyone in the house could feel, but nobody had the words to name. Because in 1965, the word alcoholism was a word for skid row drunks and broken men, not for your father who held down a job and mowed the lawn on Saturdays. Not for your mother who had dinner on the table every night. Whatever was happening in your house, it didn't have a name. So you carried it unnamed. To understand what happened inside those homes, you have to understand what the culture was telling everyone outside them. After World War II, American men came home from something unspeakable. They had seen things that had no place in a peacetime living room. And the culture collectively, without discussing it, made a decision. We don't talk about that. We move forward. We build. We drink. Alcohol was the great unspoken agreement. You don't process what happened over there. You have a drink and you function. You provide. You show up. That's what a man does. The advertising industry understood this perfectly. Through the 1950s and 60s, liquor companies spent millions telling American men that drinking was sophistication, that it was reward, that a hard-working man deserved his evening drink, and who was anyone to argue with that? Meanwhile, doctors were prescribing tranquilizers to women at record rates. Valium became the most prescribed drug in America by 1969. Mother's Little Helper. The Rolling Stones named it in a song because it was everywhere. Women who were anxious, unhappy, unfulfilled, here, take this. Don't talk about it. Just keep going. The entire culture was medicating pain it refused to acknowledge. And the children inside those homes were watching all of it, absorbing it, learning from it. Learning that feelings are dangerous, that you manage them with something rather than feel them, that the goal is to function, not to heal. Let's talk about what it actually felt like. Inside, where the children were, there was a particular kind of tension that lived in those homes. Not always loud, often very quiet. A low-frequency hum of unpredictability that never fully went away. Good days were good, maybe great. A father who was funny and warm and present. A mother who laughed easily. Dinners that felt like the family you wanted to be all the time. And then something shifted. It could be anything. A hard day at work, a bill, an argument about nothing, and the drinking that started normally didn't stop at normally. And the child who had learned to read every signal felt the shift before the adults acknowledged it, felt it in their stomach. In the sudden quiet, that meant something different from the comfortable quiet. Psychologists call what those children developed hypervigilance, a nervous system permanently tuned to detect threat, always slightly scanning, always reading the room, always one step ahead of what might happen next. It made them extraordinarily perceptive, emotionally intelligent in a way their peers weren't, able to walk into any room and within minutes understand exactly what was happening beneath the surface. These are real skills, valuable skills, skills that serve them well in careers, in relationships, in navigating complex situations. They were also built at a cost that nobody asked those children to pay. Because hypervigilance doesn't turn off when the threat is gone, it becomes the default. The nervous system that learned danger is everywhere doesn't easily learn that sometimes the room is just a room. The silence is just silence. The person you love is not about to change. Decades later, these children, now in their 50s and 60s, often still feel it. That low hum, that scanning, that waiting for the other shoe to drop even when everything is fine. Especially when everything is fine. Inside homes where a parent drank, children didn't stay children for long. They took on roles, not because anyone assigned them, because the family needed someone to fill them. Some became the caretaker, the one who made sure the younger siblings were fed, bathed, in bed, the one who checked on mom after dad's bad evening, the one who kept everything running when the adult responsible for running things couldn't. Some became the peacemaker, the one who sensed conflict coming and moved to diffuse it, who learned exactly what to say and what never to say to keep the temperature down, who became so good at managing other people's emotions that they forgot they had their own. Some became invisible, the one who asked for nothing, needed nothing, caused no trouble whatsoever, who understood instinctively that the safest strategy was to take up as little space as possible, who got very good at disappearing and never quite learned how to be fully seen. And some became the one who acted out, who carried the family's unspoken pain into the world and expressed it loudly in classrooms, in fights, in choices that adults called problems without ever asking what was underneath them. These roles weren't chosen, they were survival strategies. And the cruelest part? Most of these children carried those roles into adulthood completely intact. The caretaker who still can't let anyone take care of them. The peacemaker who still can't tolerate conflict even when conflict is necessary. The invisible one who still doesn't quite believe they deserve to take up space. The role became the identity, and the identity was built in a house that needed them to be something other than a child. Here is what made everything harder. You didn't talk about it. Not to your friends, not to your teachers, not to the relatives who came for holidays and somehow didn't see or chose not to see what was happening. Because one of the first things children in these homes learned was the rule. The unspoken, absolute, never violated rule. What happens in this house stays in this house. Nobody said it out loud. Nobody had to. You learned it the way children learn everything essential, by watching what the adults around you did and didn't do. By understanding, without being told, what the consequences of breaking the rule would be. So you smiled at the neighbors. You said everything was fine when teachers asked. You performed normal, with a consistency and skill that would have been impressive if it hadn't been so necessary. And inside that performance, something quietly calcified. The understanding that your real life, your real feelings, your real experience was not for sharing, was not safe to share, was something to be managed privately, handled alone, never brought into the light where someone might actually help. That belief that your inner world is private by necessity, not by choice, follows people out of those houses and into every relationship they ever have. It is one of the loneliest legacies of a childhood that asked too much. Here is what I want you to hear clearly, directly, without softening it. Your parents' drinking was not your fault, not even slightly, not in any version of the story. You were a child. You did not cause it. You could not control it. You could not cure it. You could only adapt to it, and you did, with a resourcefulness and a resilience that most people will never have to find in themselves. And your parent, in most cases, was not a monster. They were a person in pain, living in a culture that handed them a bottle instead of help, in an era that had no language for what they were struggling with. That doesn't excuse what their drinking cost you. But it might, if you're ready, make space for something more complicated than pure anger. Grief, maybe, for the parent they could have been, for the childhood you deserved and didn't fully get, for the version of yourself that never had to learn to disappear. That grief is real, and it is allowed. If you grew up in one of these homes, you learned things about human beings that most people never learn. You developed a sensitivity, a perceptiveness, a capacity for empathy that came from having to understand others before you could understand yourself. Those things are yours. Nobody gave them to you. You built them in difficult conditions, out of materials nobody should have had to work with at that age. And you are still here, still standing, still in some quiet, persistent way, trying to make sense of it all. That matters more than you know. If this video touched something you've carried for a long time, leave a comment below. You don't have to explain everything. You don't have to use the right words. Even just, "I grew up in one of these houses," is enough. Because sometimes, the most important thing is simply this. Someone finally said it out loud, and you finally didn't have to carry it alone. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. James.